All right, everyone. I am super excited to introduce our final panel of TWiMLCon, Operationalizing Responsible AI. And I'd like to welcome our panelists to the stage. First up, Kathy Baxter, Principal Architect for the Ethical AI Practice at Salesforce. Sarah Bird, Responsible AI Leader, Azure Cognitive Services at Microsoft. And Roma Rosales, Senior Director of Artificial Intelligence at LinkedIn.
Hello.
Hi. So we've talked a lot about operationalizing machine learning throughout this conference, and in particular, the role of machine learning platforms in helping teams standardize on best practices and achieve scale. And in this panel, we'll be exploring a very specific area of best practice that we need to consider for machine learning models, and that is their responsible use and application. To get us started, I'd love to have each of our panelists kind of introduce themselves and in particular their roles at their respective organizations and kind of where they fit in, because I suspect that it's going to be different in each case, and we'll get to learn a little bit about where organizations are thinking about ethical AI practices. Let's start with Kathy.
Hi, so I am a principal architect of ethical AI practice, and my team sits within the tech and product team, and we work with our ethical humane use, our chief officer of ethical and humane use. So we collaborate with the AI teams across the company. We also work with our customers so that we ensure that we are creating trusted AI and that our customers are implementing it responsibly.
Awesome. Sarah?
Great. Let's see. So I started actually a couple years ago working on building tools to help people implement models responsibly. So one of our toolkits, Fair Learn, is about seeing how well your models perform for different groups of people, and Interpret ML is understanding explanations and why your model might be making a mistake. And about a year ago, I moved over to lead responsible AI for the Azure Cognitive Services, where we're trying to take those tools and all of our best practices and apply them to the models that we are building, that we sell to our customers, that power a lot of our 1P products. And so now both making sure that we develop the models responsibly, but also how do we educate, inform, empower our customers to make sure that those are used responsibly and they have all the information they need to take it and use it in their application appropriately.
Awesome. Romer?
So my name is Roma Rosales, and I lead the consumer side of AI at LinkedIn. This means, the products that you see when you open the application, the LinkedIn app, like the feed, connection recommendations, notifications, etc. Responsible AI is pretty central to everything we do in the consumer side of the world, and all of AI, actually. But I'm also responsible for initiatives in the area of trust at LinkedIn. So Trust AI is a team that is part of my organization. And within Trust AI, we develop tools that help us build a responsible AI platform, like tools for fairness, some open sources. We partner very closely with Microsoft as our parent company in everything we do, differential privacy, and so on. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm involved in this overall AI effort related to responsible AI.
Awesome. Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of the responsible AI practice at Salesforce?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So my background last 20 years has been in user experience research and psychology. And I joined Salesforce in October of 2015. And when Mark Benioff, our CEO, announced that we would be going into AI, immediately I started researching and thinking about issues of ethics and bias and fairness in the AI applications that we would be creating. And so just started working kind of on the side with different Einstein teams to think through these issues. And it eventually became like having 2 full-time jobs. And so I pitched that we should have somebody thinking about this full-time as their responsibility. And so August 2018, created this role of architect of ethical AI practice and started building a team. And then in January of 2019, Paula Goldman joined as our Chief Ethical Humane Use Officer to think about the ethical use of all of our products and policies, about how our products should be used or not used, and red lines. And so our teams have just grown from there.
Sarah, my sense from our past conversations is that you spend a lot of your time in contact with customers as your users. What's your sense of where folks are in thinking about using AI responsibly?
I think I've been just amazed at how much everybody, us as an organization, our customers, the world has progressed in their thinking, even, let's say, in the last year. And so, maybe a year ago, a lot of our conversations, even, internally with product teams or with customers, was, how do I think about this, right? I don't even understand. And that's when we start saying, oh, we have these different principles. And now the conversation is, oh, we already have our principles, we have our, our governance set up, maybe we even have a review process, but the next step is, how do we actually operationalize this at scale? How do we solve the hard problems we discover as a result of our review process? How do we, innovate, but do that in a way that, balances all of these different trade-offs? And so it's been, I think, quite amazing to work with a bunch of customers closely to design things that we, walk away saying we're all really excited with what this product can do, and it's a better product because of the responsible AI. And so that feels very different than before, where it was much more just tell me how to even think about the problem. Now we're closer to tell me how to do it at scale, or tell me how to solve this particularly hard problem. And I've been just thrilled to see that evolution.
I remember a point, I guess a couple of years ago or so, where those of us kind of in the industry were super excited about AI, and the folks on the enterprise side had their hands up like, whoa, I don't really know what to do with this. And we've certainly come a long way, but my sense is that we're not fully there yet. And I'm wondering from all of you, what do you think is what's kind of top of mind for what's missing, or the next step for folks to really wrap their arms around or operationalize, to use the word we've been using, some process for responsible AI. Romer, you want to get us started there? You're muted.
Okay. Can you unmute me? Or okay.
No, you're good.
That's good. I'll say. So I'll say I think we have come a long way. How to get started? I think that to even I would say that it takes a village really to get AI ethics, AI, responsible AI permeate the entire organization, right? But I think companies are realizing that there is no option, there is no other way, right? Why? Because unless you decide to completely remove AI from your technology, AI permeates a lot of the organization's processes, culture, principles. And because of this ubiquitous nature, AI ethics quickly become not just about AI ethics, like we call it, or responsible AI, but it becomes about the company ethics, right? There is no way to separate the two. And because, and I think that's great progress that I've seen, I'm very happy about, right? That companies are internalizing that. And because of that, I think one of the things that you need to do, and sometimes it takes sometimes to get there, is you need the overall company executive support, to create the right environment, because AI interfaces with a lot of different pieces. So we need to have that global prioritization, right? And once you get past that and gets the company all aligned into this, I think things start to move much more rapidly. It needs to permeate the culture. And another great thing that I have also learned and observed in this evolution is that it gets everybody to appreciate and learn more about what AI does, right? For example, in LinkedIn, we have what we call AI 100. It's a class for anybody who wants to learn more about what the AI team does, what AI does. And those efforts that actually started some years ago, right, have actually helped a lot the company internalize, why it is that we need this and what is the role of AI in all of this. I think once you have that culture change and that people understanding of why this is important, I think that remove a lot of barriers and that remove a lot of alignment that I think are needed. So I think I'm very happy to see how that has changed more recently. And then you start operationalizing things, right? And getting into really the difficult questions about what is fairness, right? And get the company alignment into that. And then when you realize, okay, what is fairness? What is privacy? What are the mathematical tools that you want to use for defining those? What is transparency or explainability, right? You realize that once you get past that, you have to see how that interconnects or that gets implemented or applies to the different products that you have. And in a place like LinkedIn, and as I always expect that is the case for Salesforce and Microsoft, of course, the type of products that we offer are very diverse, very different, right? So one definition would apply very well to one particular product, but maybe it needs to be redefined to another product or be adapted. And is that beautiful interconnection of theory? What is the mathematical principles of fairness or privacy, right? And the use in a product that I think is super exciting. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of companies being in that stage right now. So I'll stop there. I mean, I'm really excited about this area, but I think that beautiful interconnection of the theory and practice is what we are seeing a lot in companies that have started to adopt this. And I think that we will see a lot of developments because this is not an area that has been solved. There's going to be a lot of difference of opinions and different ways to approach the problem, and how they impact society is going to also be different. So,
do you have a specific example of where a responsible use of AI has different and maybe conflicting definitions between products? I think you alluded to that.
Oh yeah, there can be. For example, even so, there is a concept called equality of opportunity, right? Using fairness in fairness definitions, right? That concept, even though mathematically understood, right, and agreed upon, right, that's not the only definition, by the way. There can be other definitions that are contradictory, even in mathematical terms. But even if you settle with that equality of opportunity, which means that the probability of an outcome, right, of a score of a model, right, condition on the outcome being true. Let's say you are eligible for a job or to be offered this job or to be shown this job opportunity should be independent of what we call the protected attributes, like, for example, gender or race or any other attribute that you would like to. It doesn't have to be protected, but it can be just an attribute. Even though there is agreement there, how do you apply it to the product, right? Would you like it to be equality at the level of seeing a particular impression, right? Or equality at the level of being contacted by a recruiter, right? What is the right level of opportunity, right? You go from opportunity to final outcome, for example, right? And there are very valid reasons in which you go from one end to another, right? In this continuum, right? And it depends on the product, right? So the mathematical definitions don't give you, even if people agree on the mathematical definitions, they don't give you the full way in which you should implement it in your product. And that depends a lot on the company policies. It depends a lot on the legal aspects as well, right? In particular, in the US, for example, there are different ways in which we are required not to discriminate against particular attributes, right? With respect to providing a job. So there are legal aspects as well that will influence how do you define the product. So I'll stop there because I think that this is we can talk the entire hour about this and we will not finish that. It's ongoing. It's an ongoing conversation. It's not something that I would say anybody has all the answers, and it requires input from all parts of society to agree. Different countries will agree on what is fairness at this, even in something as basic as providing job opportunities, right?
Got it. So, Sarah, are there other practices that you've seen that work well?
Yeah. So one of the things that we started about 6 or 7 months ago in our organization that has been actually just a great experience was we've had for a while many different expert teams around the company, like wonderful experts in MSR and also dedicated responsible AI expert teams, and of course the company-wide Ether committee. But we didn't have some of the, the process that you would expect in our normal sort of product machinery. And so we started a dedicated ship room for responsible AI. And if anyone's not familiar with a ship room, right, this is a place where you go, all the product teams go every week and they say, here's our issues. And it's a place to work through those issues and get unblocked, get support, and make sure that, we're successfully shipping things. And so we said, let's start one of these dedicated specifically for responsible AI, where teams can come, our experts can participate, and we can start saying, what do we need to do to successfully ship this product? And what about the next one? And, it sounds like a pretty simple thing, but it's been amazing to see the cultural change that has come with this. Because now all of us can see the same patterns that come through, so we can turn those into practices that people can adopt, right? Oh, we just told the last 5 products that they all need to do a variant of the same thing. Why don't we just make that an official requirement that they know in advance that they'll probably need to do? But also it's allowed teams to feel like they have support, right? That it's not their own unique hard problem that they have to solve. And they're watching everyone else and saying, oh, everyone else is going through this and they're having this same challenge, or they're being asked to, consider a very hard topic like fairness. It's not, unique to me. And so it's been a huge growing organization or moment for our organization where now it's normal. Oh, responsible AI, of course you're going to go to ship room and you're going to ask for help, and you're going to, have a lot of product leadership and experts in responsible AI help get your product out the door in the way that everybody feels great about. And so that's definitely a practice that we're recommending, and we're starting to spread across more organizations in the company.
Awesome. How about you, Kathy? Any practices that come to mind for folks getting started?
Yeah, so much like Microsoft, we are a platform. And so we have different types of models that are applicable that we have to think through. The first kind of model are what we call global models. These are ones that we train with our own data. We create the models and we release them to customers, and they use them as is. They can't retrain the models. They come fully out of the box. Another kind are what we call hybrid models. So similar to the global models, but once they're released into the customer's org, they can get retrained on their own data. And then the third kind are the tenant-specific models. These are created by our AI builders like Einstein Prediction Builder or Discovery. And so those are created by the customers using their own training data. We can't see their data, we can't see their models. And so thinking through what's our level of responsibility in each of these cases, because it differs. So in the case of the global models, we work closely with teams to ensure that they're using representative training data for all the different types of industries or use cases or consumers that might end up being impacted. In the case of our chatbots models, for example, we worked with our linguist, Greg Bennett, to source representative training data across different accents and dialects and the gender spectrum and races, so that the chatbot is going to be able to recognize a full spectrum of inputs. And then in going on the opposite side of the spectrum, the tenant-specific models, giving those customers tools so that they can identify, is their training data representative? What bias might there be? Helping them identify, are there proxy variables? So if they highlight, if they're using for example, race in their model, and they also have zip code, Einstein Discovery is going to flag that. So if they decide they don't want to make decisions based on race, then they might want to deselect and not use zip code, highlighting disparate impact. So and through all of those, providing education in app in the moment, so that the customers can understand when they're using models, what might be adding in bias, what are the things they need to consider. And of course, for our global models, providing model cards. Those are like nutrition labels for models. They were created by Google. Shout out to Meg Mitchell, Tim Nickerbrew. And it just is a way of communicating to our customers, here's how we built our models, here's the training data that was used, here's any ethical considerations. So having, for the full spectrum, the kinds of models we create, always thinking through how can we provide the transparency, the accountability, and the tools so that the customers can use them responsibly.
Great. Appreciate the shout out to Meg and Timnit. And it's maybe a great segue to this next question that Adriana asks. I'm paraphrasing here, but defining responsibility and, teaching classes, all of this is great and wonderful. But at the end of the day, do any of you have examples of, when your teams have helped prevent an unfair model being deployed? And, tell us about that intervention and the way an organization needs, the things that maybe an organization can do before they get to that, and the way you need to think about the relationship between the various ethics teams and the rest of the organization, so that the ethics teams can, do that job and be celebrated for it and not, hated for it. Anyone have some examples they'd like to share? Kathy?
I think we all do. I think one example is with our wellness attestation. So work.com, our back to work solution. We spent a lot of time working with the privacy team and thinking through what information is okay for employers to be collecting about their employees. We knew that some of our customers were going to want to ask their employees a lot of information before deciding whether or not they should come back to work. And really the only things that matter are, have you tested positive within the last X number of days? Have you been exposed to anybody that's tested positive, or are you experiencing any symptoms? Your employer doesn't need to know specific symptoms that you have. They don't need to know any of your potential health risks. Just, have you been tested positive, or have you been exposed, or do you have symptoms? Yes or no? And so really focusing on limiting information that's being collected by employers that could be used in other decision making. And so by limiting our product and setting defaults, then we prevent the product going out and accidentally or enabling customers to accidentally collect more information or sensitive data what they really should.
Great. Sarah, share your example as well, but also comment on the other part of this question, which is what really gives the ethics team teeth to be able to push back on a model that they think is inappropriate.
Yes, I think the way we've actually been approaching this in my team is to try to change the baseline of the conversation, right? Not have an ethics team. I mean, we need an expert team on the side to go and help us think through how to actually solve particular problems, but really make it the responsibility of the product team and just a requirement to ship. So it's no longer, hey, you thought you were shipping next week, but you haven't done this fairness testing, so you're not, and it's a surprise to you, right? And so we have all of our teams developing, their fairness plan? What are for my particular product, for speech to text, what are the different factors that I need to be testing for? What are the groups within that factor that I want to look at, right? And all teams have to have a committed fairness plan, and then test that with systematic testing, right? And so then the conversation becomes more, oh, is that gap too big? Or what is the appropriate bar? And then we've set those things with OKRs. And so for quality of service fairness in general, I think we've really been able to change the conversation to, this is just a requirement to ship. We know how to do this. Of course, over time, we'll get better. We'll look at more factors and more groups and minimize disparity even more. But we know how to do that now. And so I don't think it should be something where it's a last minute intervention. I think the bigger unsolved challenges for us are around what we are calling representational harms, but the cases where you're seeing how the product represents a group of people as problematic, whether that's a tag on an image that reinforces stereotypes, or language generation output that seems to be denigrating. And that's a case where I think there's a lot more, and we've seen a lot more, it's possible to make it have this behavior. Most of the time it doesn't. What do we do? And I think we're still building up that robust playbook where we can just say, this is what you do. This is where the bar is. This is what it means to ship these kinds of models. And so in those cases where we've set the bar now is you still have to know what you're looking for. You still have to have your testing plan, but also you need to be able to rapidly respond. We know that we don't know a lot of things. So how quickly can you update the model? Can you update block lists? Can you do things like that? And so as much as possible, we're trying not for it to be some sort of last minute check, but just a core part of how we build the products. And I think that switch has enabled us to do a lot more, a lot faster at, sort of at scale. Because it's not very scalable to have, a single or a few expert teams coming in and saying, whoa, you've been working on this for 2 years and you didn't think about that. And so as much as we're saying, no, come to us at the beginning of the 2 years and we'll tell you what to think about and we'll write it down and you'll have it on your checklist, basically. And so that's, I think, been the transition for us. And obviously it's not as simple as that, but that's the mindset shift that we're trying to drive.
Great. Romer, anything that you'd add from your experience at LinkedIn that helps you get this balance right?
Yeah, so I think that one of my favorite examples is on our recruiter search product. So as you know, LinkedIn has a product that lets recruiters search for potential hires based on some search criteria. So given a query, this product provides a ranked list of candidates, right? And this is ranked based on a variety of factors, such as similarity of the work, experience, skills, similarity with this, match to the search criteria, just job posting location, and so on, right? And we use a statistical concept called, equality of opportunity, which I mentioned earlier, to maximize the chances that a person will be ranked highly, given that that person is qualified for the job, but that is independent of his or her gender, right? So basically, we make sure that the gender distribution of the top end search results is consistent with the gender distribution of the qualified candidates. What gives us teeth to actually push for this effort to actually be productionized and to actually is now what we use in our product. We had a nearly threefold increase in the number of search queries with representative results. There were results that are appropriately balanced based on the qualifications for the job. It didn't affect job acceptance rate or any of the traditional business metrics that we use to measure our product with. And it is one of the first large-scale deployed frameworks for ensuring in the hiring domain that this is we have a proper balance, right, of the candidates' qualifications and what is actually served. And so we're pretty happy about that, right? And the way that we do this and the way that I think this is an example that we have published in the past and that we did as one of our pilot experiments, right? However, I think what now needs to change and we're in the process of changing is incorporating the principles of fairness and accountability and responsibility, right, into all aspects of software or AI development, right, from design to model deployment, model implementation, model checks, and also monitoring, right? So that is something that I think it is going to be hopefully the standard. The thinking about this at all stages of software development, not just at the beginning, okay, done, but also as we monitor things, because data distribution can change, right? And we shouldn't assume that what we saw in the past is what we're always going to see in the future. So I think that having that ability to monitor and to self-check, right, that everything is working as expected, I think is one of the things that I think is going to propel these efforts into more general use, right? More trust that these efforts are scalable, that these efforts can sustain the right performance or the right metrics or measurements over time.
Got it. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end. There are a bunch of great takeaways from this conversation. Defining your terms, making responsible use of AI part of the product requirement and not something that's enforced by an external team. I just missed the last one that you mentioned, Romer, which was
monitoring and making it part of the software development and AI development lifecycle.
Right. And what I took from that was also, get an early success and make that success your flag and use that to get folks excited about the idea of responsible use of AI. Thank you. Thanks so much, Kathy, Sarah, and Romer, for joining us at TWiMLCon.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.